know that God
Let me get my sound up here. Good morning, Unity of Music City. Happy Sunday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's all stand up. I'm going to sing a couple of songs back to back. We're going to get our energy focused and on having a great service today. So on behalf of Reverend Deb Moore, I'm Ryan Gill. That's Jackson. That's Mary Grace. We're the Sanctuary Band, and we're going to sing a couple of songs. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. I think we can get our sway on. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I strong enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I'm the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Let's take it up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God shows up. All right. I'm worried about tomorrow. Today I declare freedom from yesterday's mistakes of the past. Today all things are made brand new. And don't it feel good to know that all is well and unfolding as it should? I can't change my reality by changing my mind. Perfect peace, joy and happiness is yours and it's mine. I am loved and so are you. And don't it feel good to know that all is well and unfolding as it should? Let me hear you say all is well. All is well. Divine Spirit is directing me right now. All is well. All is well. All is well and unfolding as it should. I am cloaked in the Spirit. I am led by the divine. I am one with all that is. My soul is free from time. I am blessed and so are you. And don't it feel good to know that all is well and unfolding as it should? Everything say all is well. All is well. Divine Spirit is directing me right now. All is well. All is well. All is well and unfolding as it should. Let me hear you say all is well. All is well. Divine Spirit is directing me right now. All is well. All is well. All is well and unfolding as it should. All is well and unfolding as it should. All is well. Thank you so much. Please be seated. Y'all come on in. Make yourselves at home because you are at home. All right. We're going to give our youth a blessing before they leave. So let's all look up at the screen and say the blessing together. Youth of Unity of Music City, we see you, we love you, and we bless you. You're a shining star for all to see what your life can truly be. Go have fun.
Good morning, Unity of Music City.
Good morning.
Let's begin this portion of our service by taking a deep centering breath. Today's centering thought is, I let go, let God, and have faith. Trying to do everything myself can be exhausting, but relying solely on the divine can feel as though I'm not doing enough to help myself. And sometimes it seems no matter what I do, I have no control over some of the situations in my life. I find the perfect balance of activity and surrender when I let go and let the divine presence within me give me the knowing that it is in control. In this place of cooperation, my human and divine natures are in harmony. I take useful action and do what is mine to do in my world, my spiritual community, and the world around me. When I complete or feel complete in my outside efforts, I let go and release my thoughts and concerns about whether my efforts were enough. I have faith that the creator of the universe is bringing together and including me in a divine plan. I can look at past experiences where I've trusted God to know that I am in good hands. So I trust my guidance to deliver me on the right path and direct my steps. I let go trusting that the best outcome is on its way. And now please repeat these affirming statements after me. I make positive contributions to my world, my spiritual community, and the world around me. I make positive contributions to my world, my spiritual community, and to the world around me. I find the perfect balance of activity and surrender when I let go and let God. I find the perfect balance of activity and surrender when I let go and let God. I let go trusting that the best outcome is on its way. I let go trusting that the best outcome is on its way. And so it is.
Well, I'm a Libra, so I'm always looking for that balance, right? That balance between the spiritual and the physical. And we do a lot of talking about that here. We do a lot of studying about that here. And we have a lot of people in this community that can give us a lot of advice. So I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad that you're here. So welcome, everybody, to Unity of Music City. We call ourselves a place for authentic spiritual transformation, and that's because we give you the support that you need to find the answers that are already within you, that are already inside of you. When you open up and you let the divine guide your life, you will have the answers that you need to be your version of success. So we're so happy to have you here. And on that note, that's a perfect little segue. I didn't even plan it that way, right? To talk about who we are as a spiritual community. We haven't done this in a little while, and I want to go over these three aspects. And these are three aspects that our community came up with to describe who we are as a spiritual community. Unity of Music City is an inclusive, affirming, interfaith spiritual community. We honor the unique path of each person's spiritual journey. We encourage a heart-guided exploration of the truth in all faith traditions. You may hear a little bit extra about that in the lesson today. And we strive to be a presence that contributes to the well-being of all, and that's every living thing on this planet. That's four things, isn't it? Yeah, do I always say three things? I don't know, maybe it's like the kind of overarching statement, right? But it's the Unity of Music City quad instead of Trinity, right? So welcome, everyone. I do believe we're a very active community, as you know, and we'll find out. So I think we've got a bunch of announcements today, right? All right, let's hit it.
I'm going to let go of props because...
And have faith that you don't need them.
No. Make sure we have plenty of time for this wonderful message coming to us. All right, today, April the 21st, pause and practice with Reverend Deb on Mondays, 6:30 via Zoom. It has been outstanding. Reverend Deb, thank you for doing those for us. 40 minutes of sharing and questions followed by 20 minutes of practice, meditation, centering prayer, mindfulness, and various spiritual practices. Full Moon Gathering, Tuesday, April the 23rd at 7 p.m. Join us around the fire here at Wren Road for the pink moon. That would feel good tonight, actually. But all right, so April the 23rd, that's Tuesday, coming up. Movement and soul art. I believe we're going to draw our attention to these samples. Steph gave me a little direction here on checking out that screen, seeing these examples, and I want to read about that. So Saturday, April the 27th, 11 a.m. to 12:45 p.m., join Steph and artist Carrie for Movement and Soul Art. Class will feature chair yoga, self-portraits, that was the sample right there, soul art style, using mixed media and collage. Cost is $40, discounted, bring a friend. And group rates are also available. You can find more info at the sign up on the bulletin board out front. And again, we have our samples up there. It's all about celebrating self. Yay. And we need to do that every day, but this is a big way to do that. Uniqueness and individuality. Yes. Love Our Spiritual Community Day. This is Saturday, May the 4th. Be with us. I've got to say that. And it is not. I know.
Yeah.
It's always going to come into play.
Oh,
yeah. You can count on it. 9 a.m. to noon that is May the 4th. Join us for a day of fun, fellowship, and giving back to the spiritual home that gives us so much. Let's shine this shrine and tackle this temple. I love this. And yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's grounds led by the Clean and Shine team and the Casa crew. Love it. Then we will cleanse and renew our building in a ceremony led by the keepers of the sacred circle. Lunch will be provided. Sounds like it's an incredible time. So all activity and all these meeting links and contact numbers can be found on the website, weekly happenings, the Google Calendar, or you can always email the church. And bless all of you this week and have an extraordinary week.
Thank you, Julie. Steph wanted me to stress to you that she needs at least 5 people to sign up for her movement class in order to have that go on. And I said, why are you worried about that? You're going to have way more than 5. So be sure and sign up for that so she knows how many to prepare for. All right, well, it's time to sing again. And we've been working on our monthly mantra. This is the song that we do at this point in the service to kind of really reinforce who we are and what we teach as a spiritual community. And we've been learning love with all your heart. So let's stand up and sing it. Seated.
Love with all your heart. Good morning, everyone. That second affirmation we read this morning talked about balancing, knowing how to balance our activity and our surrender when we let go and let God. Was that just for you and me, Susan? We were just talking about that concept right before. That ability to let go and let God. So the reason why we engage in meditation, in getting still, going into the stillness and the silence, is so that we can practice letting go and letting God. It becomes like a habit then, a good habit, a Pavlovian kind of experience, where our whole beingness automatically moves toward the divine when we have trained it to do so. So I invite you to join with me in shifting the energy for just a moment. We're going to chant Om 3 times. And then we're going to settle into a meditative space. Take in a deep breath. Let it go. And breathe in again. I invite you to settle into a place of balance. If life has been too hectic lately, this is the space where we lean into stillness. All the voices that we hear around us and we have in our own head, this is the place where we let them go silent. The world will constantly try to tell you what to do. We'll try to tell you what to believe. How to think. How you're supposed to show up. And until we go into the stillness, we live with the delusion that we should be listening to those voices. Following that outward guidance. When all the while inside, in the quiet, in the temple of your being, the divine essence of the universe, is in oneness with your spirit. This intuition is our greatest guide. And I invite you now to let everything go and let that inner guide speak to you as it wishes in the silence, in the stillness. because everything we hold to becomes a soundproof baffle covering the voice of our inner guidance. We let go because we want to hear from God. Because the relationship with our higher is the greatest relationship we have. We nurture it. We turn to it. We know that God and I are one. And so it is.
Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Always there for you. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Peace I leave with you. Peace I leave with you.
Did you notice on the Love Your Community Day announcement that it also said, polish the parish? And did you know that polish is the only word in the English language that will change the way it's pronounced just by capitalizing the first letter? That has nothing to do with anything I'm getting ready to talk about right now. But I thought it was worth sharing. And as an English professor, I have an ethical responsibility to share that with you, and my responsibility to the Polish people. All right. Today we're talking about Mary Magdalene. We're starting a series. No, I don't know how long it's going to be. We're going to go 3 or 4 weeks probably at least. We'll see how long it goes. But we're going to be talking about Mary Magdalene. So when I go to India, the 3 times I've been to India, I've taken students, and our guide, my dear friend JD, he has this thing that he has the students shout every time they get back on the little shuttle bus that we drive all around northern India in. And because he knows that when you have people shout things together, it creates a bond. I don't know what that is, but shouting something together creates a bond. And so he has us shout, Jai Mata Di, Jai Mata Di. Try it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Jai Mata Di. Ooh, you guys are good. And what you've just said is, hail to the Divine Mother. Hail to the Mother Divine. J, hail. Mata, Mother. D, divine. Hail, Divine Mother. And so in Hinduism, one of the things you do is you just want to get the god's attention. That's why they have little clinging bells and little rattling bells and you go in the temples and they'll usually have a very big bell. And a lot of devotees, when they walk in, will take the clapper and just slam it against there, and it's loud and it makes the bell go. But they're saying, God, pay attention to me. I'm here. Notice that I'm here. Notice that I'm worshiping. Notice that I'm in the temple. And so this loudness, this getting the mother's attention is an important part. That's all you have to do sometimes. You don't have to even make your appeal. Like, the gods know what I need. If I just get their attention, they'll take care of me. Jai Mata Di. So we see this divine feminine in a lot of different religious traditions, right? Hinduism has Shakti, the divine feminine energy, the consort of Shiva, shows up as avatars and goddesses like Durga and Kali and Parvati. And then you have Buddhism that has figures like Tara and Kuan Yin, and you have the Native American tribes who worship Mother Earth, the Divine Mother. African religions have a lot of goddesses that embody fertility, earth, creation. There's Celtic mythology with goddesses like Breed, and they often they see to things like healing and poetry and right all these kinds of things, fertility. The Greek and Roman mythology has goddesses all throughout it. I mean, everywhere we turn, there's the divine feminine. So how does the divine feminine show up in the Christ tradition? The tradition that many of us were raised in. And even if we weren't raised in it, living in this part of the world, it is the predominant spiritual, energetic soup. You kind of pick some of it up by osmosis, even if you don't show up at Sunday school every Sunday morning. Mary Magdalene is arguably the most important woman in the Jesus story. Now, you might say, what about Mary, the mother of Jesus, Deb? Hello. So first off, let's talk about this. The Bible has a Mary problem, right? There are at least 3 distinct Marys that you'll hear mentioned in the scriptures. There's Mary, the mother of Jesus. There's Mary Magdalene, and there's Mary of Bethany, the sister of Martha and Lazarus, right? And so these Marys are showing up all the time, which of course is a little bit problematic for people who do textual analysis. When are these characters the same? And when are they not? And so we have to deal with that. But certainly the 2 most prominent, Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of Jesus, Mary the mother of Jesus is depicted almost solely in terms of her relationship to Jesus, her motherhood. She's depicted in the birth story. She's depicted as the grieving mother, right? But along the way, it's Jesus even says, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? Right? I'm one with everyone. Who are these people? Mary Magdalene is different. So let's take a look and see how. I already told Julie a little while ago, maybe that's why she didn't have any props, I don't know. I said, listen, I got a 3-hour talk that I'm going to try to put into 30 minutes. So and she was like, I'll give you all the time, So let's look at Mary Magdalene. So when we're talking about the scriptures, we have this great word, canonical, which is the adjective form of what is in the canon. That's not as great a word as non-canonical, because that's just fun to say, right? But canonical is a pretty fun word in and of itself. And that means, of course, those writings that were decided upon and included in the books in the Bible that we know of today, the 27 books of the New Testament, right? And there were very distinct decisions made because there were a lot more writings about those early years of the Christian tradition. So there were some specific decisions made. The Nicene Council, well, we'll get to that in just a moment. At any rate, we're left with what turns out to be a fairly patriarchal religion. What was included was the stuff that emphasized that. And so who is Mary Magdalene? Even if we just deal with that, before we deal with any other things that we know about her, what do we know about her from the canonical Gospels? First, in all 4 Gospels, She is specifically mentioned as being present at the crucifixion. Right? By the way, this is we know this Holy Week experience. It's a tough Holy Week experience, and it's important to note that it is the women who stayed around, right? It is the women who stayed around. Now, it could be argued, and rightfully so, that the men may have felt it was a little bit riskier for them. That could be argued, right? It could be a little bit riskier. But we can't really look at intention. The truth is, it was the women who stayed around, right? The men scattered. Peter denied knowing Jesus. Judas betrayed him. The others are suspiciously absent of even a mention. We don't know where they are. They've gone into hiding. And even though the church has often depicted and will tell us that Jesus was abandoned and died alone, no, he didn't. The women didn't let him die alone. They stood there through the day. They held vigil, right? And is it because the women didn't count? That the women weren't even seen? No, Jesus died alone. There were only women there, right? She was a witness to the burial in 3 of the 4 Gospels. She watches as Joseph of Arimathea takes the body off of the cross, wraps it in a linen shroud, places it in a tomb carved out of a rock, and then rolls a huge stone in front of the tomb. She's there. She's mentioned. Now, by this time, by the time he's taken the body down, wrapped it, rolled it, it's about sundown on the Sabbath. Friday night, sundown, Sabbath. You don't work. You go home. All day Saturday, Jesus lays in the tomb. Nobody can do anything. It's the Sabbath. The next morning, Sunday morning, is when the women return. And all 4 Gospels identify Mary Magdalene as the very first to witness the resurrected Jesus. Jesus appears to her first. Now let me ask you this. Don't you think Jesus could have appeared to whomever he wanted to? He could have appeared to Peter. Peter, you're the rock on whom I'm going to build my church. I better appear to you first. I better show up to you first. He could have appeared to James and John. He could have appeared to Pontius Pilate. And if he had just walked up there and appeared to Pontius Pilate, guess what? The entire Roman world would have been Christian the next day. He didn't. He appeared to Mary Magdalene. This makes her, perhaps, one of the most important people in the Jesus story. But if you go to a traditional church during Holy Week, almost every one of them is going to tell you the story of Peter denying Jesus. Why is one man denying Jesus more important than the one woman he showed up to? In the times that I've seen it depicted in traditional church, Mary Magdalene might not even have a speaking role. She's just one of the Marys. It's like 3 shepherds, 3 Marys standing over here. He appears to her first. He tells her to go and tell the others, and because of this, she's called the apostle to the apostles. She is the first one to share the good news. Right? This has been, by the way, far more readily accepted in the Eastern Orthodox Church. The Russian Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, they talk about Mary Magdalene much more glowingly than we do in the West. There's one more thing that we see about Mary in the canonical Gospels, and it talks about her being freed of 7 demons. Now, this is only in Luke, and it's echoed in Mark. Let me very quickly, I'm going to give you this timeline. Mark was written first, right? But there's the last half of the last chapter of Mark that theologians believe was added later. And in fact, in some versions, they don't even include it, right? And so in Luke, Mark was written first. Later on, Luke was written. They believe by the same person. Mark and Luke is believed to have the same authorship. Luke, the physician, his gospel tends to lean heavily into healing. And he refers to Mary Magdalene as the woman who was healed of 7 demons. 7 demons had been cast out. And then the part that was added to Mark after the fact was the part about Mary being the woman with seven demons. Right? It's the only part. Jean-Yves Leloup, who's a French theologian and writer, he argues that the fact that 7 demons have been cast out of her. I mean, what is a demon? Have y'all ever seen anybody with demon possession? Have you in modern times? Possibly. I don't know. It's been whatever. I've seen some. Not official. One was one not official, right? So, nonetheless, we could be talking perhaps about some other conditions that people had that we referred to as demon possession. But Jean Leloup says this: the fact that 7 demons have been cast out of Mary Magdalene means that she has done her psychological work inwardly and is thus prepared to be a disciple. Totally different view of it, isn't it? The number 7 always makes me think of something else. The 7 chakras. Were the 7 demons of Mary Magdalene those things that were blocking the full integration of her spiritual self with her manifested reality? I got to tell you right now, if somebody came and removed 7 demons out of me right now, my chakras would be spinning like there's no tomorrow, right? Like nobody's business. I am on fire. Now, so far, I have not mentioned the one most commonly held belief about Mary Magdalene. What is it? That she was a prostitute, right? And the reason why I haven't mentioned it is because it's not in the Bible. The reason why we think Mary Magdalene was a prostitute is because of this dude, who was a part-time carrier pigeon trainer. In his main gig, he was Pope Gregory I, known as Gregory the Great. He was the 64th Bishop of Rome from the years 590 to 604, long time ago. He delivered a homily in the year 594 that said this: "She whom Luke calls the sinful woman, whom John calls Mary, we believe to be the Mary from whom 7 demons were ejected according to Mark. And what did these 7 demons signify, if not all the vices? It is clear, brothers, it is clear, brothers," hold on, guys, I'm going to give you, this is not an anti-man thing. "It is clear, brothers, that this woman previously used the unguent," that's a fantastical old word for perfume, right? "Previously used the unguent to perfume her flesh in forbidden acts. What she therefore displayed more scandalously, she was now offering to God in a more praiseworthy manner." All of this comes back to this one pope saying this one thing. Now, first, he's obviously conflating. He's claiming that Mary Magdalene is the woman who anointed Jesus' feet the Holy Week. Remember that woman? She's not named. Nobody says she's Mary Magdalene in the scriptures. No, you know what they call her? A sinner. Because of that, a sinful woman. Pope Gregory goes, must be Mary Magdalene. She had those 7 demons taken out of her. But that woman is never named in the scripture. But now the church, through the most important human voice, the Pope, has now established Mary Magdalene as the penitent whore. And those are Cynthia Bourgeau's words, not mine. Right? Has established her as the penitent whore. In 1969, the Catholic Church officially repealed the teaching that she was a prostitute. But we all knew it. Because you don't overcome 1,375 years of teaching in 5 short decades. It lingers. Probably 100 years from now, you'll find somebody who will tell you that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. So that's the canon. That's the Pope. That's the church. That's not the whole story. So the Gnostic Gospels, the Nicene Council of 325, I promise you, this is going to not sound like school in about 5 minutes, but for about 5 more minutes, it's going to sound like school. The Nicene Council met in 325. It hammered out the church's creed. This is what we believe. And it took another century and a half, almost 150 years, for the books to be selected that would be canonized as the 27 books of the New Testament. It ended up being a list identical to a list made by Bishop Athanasius. So there's some evidence that this bishop had a lot of influence, and this one guy chose the books that would form the entire religion. And then in 1945, in the deserts of Egypt near Nag Hammadi, a large urn was discovered that contained scrolls that dated from the earliest years of Christianity. Scholars and theologians believe that they were placed there in the 4th century, right during the same time when they were arguing about what would be included. Right? Could it be that, unwilling to destroy text they still considered holy, the monks of some unknown monastic community hid these writings away for safekeeping? Because I guarantee you, the ones that weren't chosen were probably told to destroy them. But these remained. Some of them, the Gospel of Thomas, for example, appeared to be among the earliest writings of the Christ story, contemporary even with Mark, the earliest gospel. They're often referred to as the Gnostic Gospels because, you see, early Christianity was not this singular story that everybody told in the same way. It was a complex, pluralistic, dare I even say, multi-faith approach to the importance of the Christ story. The word gnosis means knowledge. And it means knowledge in the sense of direct experience. Like the word is also used in Greek versions of the Old Testament to talk about knowing someone in the biblical way. You know that story, right? It's direct knowledge, direct experience. It's participational. It's knowing even as I am known. And these Gnostic Gospels tell the story of an integrated unity of being. Bourgeot says, and this is the book that I'm getting much of this from, although there are others as well, Cynthia Bourgeot, The Meaning of Mary Magdalene. She says, Gnosis speaks of a complete, integral knowing, unifying body, mind, and heart, and by its very largeness, connecting the seen and the unseen. So rather than some kind of outside ritual elevating a person's state, Gnosis is about the integration of spiritual understanding that brings about the unification of one's own being. Boy, what would have happened if I'd had those books growing up? It is, in many ways, the Gospels of oneness. One could argue that that's what these Gnostic Gospels are. And Cynthia Bourgeot describes the Jesus of these Gospels in this way. Listen, Jesus set his disciples upon the only known path to integral transformation, the slow and persistent overcoming of the ego through a lifelong practice of surrender and non-attachment. Where have I heard that before? Non-attachment, right? That is the Jesus in those Gospels. So who is Mary Magdalene in these non-canonical scriptures? The non-canonical Mary Magdalene. Look at that. God, I love saying that word. All right. First off, this is what we know about her from those books. Jesus' inner circle includes men and women on equal footing. So many times, the story of early Christianity, women are just kind of the helpers. The men who follow Jesus are disciples. The women who follow Jesus are the chief cooks and bottle washers. Right? They're there to kind of show up and help. But no distinction is made in the Gnostic Gospels, and really even in the canonical Gospels, between the men and women as followers. One of those Gnostic Gospels is the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And like the other Gospels, the Gospels weren't written by the person they're named after. They're written by the followers of the person they're named after. So guess what? Mary Magdalene had followers. Mary Magdalene had people who understood the Christ story through the good news that she shared. She's not just a follower. She's clearly in the inner circle. Mary Magdalene is seen as first among the apostles. And it's not just because she sees the risen Christ first, but because she gets the message. She understands. We're going to learn more about this over the course of the next couple of weeks. The evidence we have that she got it. She had reached the enlightenment just as Jesus had. She had gotten rid of the 7 demons. She was awake. In fact, her very name may speak to this. You've probably been told, just like I had, that she was called Mary Magdalene because she came from this little village called Magdala, which is a little bitty fishing village on the west side of the Sea of Galilee. But the truth is, she's not called Mary of Magdala. She's called Mary, the one called the Magdalene. Mary, the one called the Magdalene. And Magdalene is a word that means the tower. So if Peter was the rock on which the church would be built, Mary was the tower, the lighthouse, the beacon, the home base. Mary, the one called the Magdalene. Mary, the one called the tower. In the Gnostic Gospels, she is not just a follower, she is a teacher. She is a respected spokesperson for Jesus himself. And the third thing, which we're going to talk about a lot next week, is that Mary Magdalene is clearly in a special relationship with Jesus. Now, I'm going to go hardcore Da Vinci Code on you next week. Right? The Da Vinci Code, of course, had this big idea that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. We're going to deal with that next week. She is the beloved disciple. When I say, who is the beloved disciple, who do you say it is? John. You know why? Because that's what it says in the Gospel of John. And there's evidence that theologians have that gospel was reshaped or rewritten, and that Mary Magdalene was the one called the beloved. We have Gnostic Gospels that talk about how she is the most loved by Jesus and how he would often kiss her on the mouth and walk around with her, right? Jesus was kissing Mary Magdalene. I'm like, I know. Somebody put up the lightning rod right now. This early idea of the divine feminine was in the Gnostic tradition. They called it Sophia, the divine feminine, the wisdom tradition. A major theme in the Gnostic Gospels is this Sophia, feminine wisdom. And according to Gnostic beliefs, Christ was conceived of as having two aspects, a male half identified as the Son of God and a female half called Sophia, who was venerated as the mother of the universe. How could our God be so small that it would only be half? That it would only be one gender, right? That it would only be one expression. In Gnosticism, Sophia is a feminine figure. Listen to this. This came straight out of the book. In Gnosticism, Sophia is a feminine figure analogous to the human soul, but also simultaneously one of the feminine aspects of God. Gnostics held that she was the female twin of Jesus and the Holy Spirit of the Trinity. Probably weren't taught that in Sunday school. I was not. For reasons often as much political as anything else, the divine feminine was systematically scrubbed from Christianity and also to a great degree from Islam, which sprung from the same tradition, right? And what we were left with was an imbalance. A stern, punishing, hell-sending, vengeful God. A God that Jesus didn't really talk about. We were left with a religion that was primarily prescribed by Paul, a man who never met Jesus, and we were denied the first-hand account of his beloved. Why is this important to us? What did we miss? What needs to be given space in our own understanding to make the gospel of patriarchy into a gospel of oneness? Well, let's talk about the 7 qualities of the divine feminine. 7, there's that number again. These could line right up. If we squint a little and just tilt our head, we can see them align with the 7 chakras, right? Perhaps the lack of these qualities were the 7 demons that Mary Magdalene overcame, and she had to lean into these qualities. The reason why this is important is this. Talking about the divine masculine and the divine feminine is not a conversation about gender. It's not a conversation about men and women, right? It's a conversation about energy. It's a conversation about the wholeness of energy. One of the reasons why new understandings of the scripture new understandings of the spiritual path, new thought tends to be overwhelmingly women, is because it opens to the divine feminine. And the men I find in new thought tend to be some of the most well-balanced men I've ever met. Because they're not afraid. Look at John over here tapping Ryan like, look at us go, dude. Look at us.
I was thinking of Dave Harrison.
Dave Harrison, nobody, no man I know leans more into understanding and accepting those divine feminine energies. And we need both of them. So what are they? Here they are. Number one is empathy. Understanding another's experience is not only something women can do, but it is feminine energy. It's a kind of emotional resonance that we have with other people. Think of this along with the root chakra, right? Kind of the base. This is the elemental aspect of oneness. If I can't have empathy, I'm not going to experience oneness in my life. Elemental to oneness is my ability to feel what you feel, to walk by your side, not to lead you, right? That's masculine energy, to just walk along with you. It is divine feminine work. If we look for the balance, then perhaps we could say that the divine masculine provides protection without question. That is a masculine energy, right? That is a masculine energy that I often lean into. I'm very kind of protective. You can ask Nikki. Maybe she's like, I don't know. What have you protected me from? I will get the spider out of the house, something like that. I sometimes will do that. But that is a very divine masculine, is that protection. The divine masculine is, I may not understand you, but I will hold this line for you. I do not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it, right? The divine feminine sits down beside and listens. And if we don't have that, we lose our balance. Intuition. Trusting your inner voice, knowing before you know. Knowing is masculine. Knowing is feminine. Right? Knowing from the heart. The divine masculine says, I'll believe it when I see it. The divine feminine says, I'll see it when I believe it. And both are important. I've heard folks say, being awake that's the difference between being spiritually asleep and spiritually awake. Spiritually asleep is, I'll believe it when I see it. Spiritually awake is, I'll see it when I believe it. You know what? I want a little bit of both of those. I want a little bit of both of those. I want a spirituality that says I can manifest, my beliefs can become reality, and I'll begin to see this in my life. And I also want the spirituality that says, you know what? That doesn't mean that I have to lose my tether to reality. That doesn't mean that I have to give up the evidence of my eyes, what I see, what I understand, what I know. We like to discount one for the other. And the same way that the church discounted the feminine, we sometimes in New Thought discount the masculine energy of that. We need both. And we don't have to throw one away. The integrated, evolved soul is one that is able to believe what they see and able to see what they believe interchangeably, on demand, as needed, right? The third feminine energy is creativity. Finding innovative solutions, thinking outside the box. Why is thinking outside the box a feminine quality? Who do you think built the box? Right? Who do you think built the box? Tapping into the divine feminine means that you stop beating your head against the wall, you stand back and you say, I'm open to a different approach. I'm open to finding a new way to do this. I'm willing to see this whole thing differently, right? Now, we need the divine masculine energy. I had a friend years ago whose father was an engineer at the Ford glass plant, and he had an engineer's mind. And she used to joke about the fact that anytime you said to her father, something's not working, his first question was, what was it?
Did you try turning
Is it plugged in? Right? Is it plugged in? That's good old divine masculine energy right there. Number one, basic. Is it plugged in? Did you turn it off and on? Did you kick it up against the side? Whatever. Let's try something. Straight to the point. But sometimes we do need the feminine energy that comes along and says, what if we rebuilt it to where it runs on a battery? We don't even have to plug it in. What if we rethink how this whole thing is even created? Collaboration is divine feminine energy. Look at all the things that collaboration relies on and produces. Trust, teamwork, inspiration, success, sharing. Most of those are feminine characteristics. Anything sharing is feminine characteristic. Since time began, the divine feminine is community energy. Right? It's community energy. And since time began, women have been gathering together to bake bread, to raise children, to beat clothes on the rocks, to weave baskets. Right? It's an energy exchange. That's divine feminine energy. Energy exchange, a place of sharing, a place of synergy. Divine masculine is often solitary, the lone wolf. Arjuna out on the battlefield by himself, asking the questions. Right? I have to know what my answers are. Leadership of this organization, our membership, our congregation, the way, the model that we run is divine feminine. The old model that I grew up in when my father was the preacher was the preacher's in charge. Very much. And maybe the board has a little power. The board was usually, when I was growing up, all men. Right? Not always, but usually. And so it's very much authoritarian. Authoritarian energy is divine masculine. But divine feminine is about collaboration. Emotional intelligence, being emotionally aware and understanding the wisdom that our emotions bring. Having a sense of how to work within a field of emotions. I mean, it's the old story, right? The old misogynistic, well, women are just emotional. Yes, hallelujah. Our emotions are powerful and wise. And when we discount them, we lose some intuitive guidance. We lose some of the power that could be ours. Sometimes masculine energy is seen as the brain and feminine energy is seen as the heart, right? But neither one of those can exist without the other. They both need each other. The one that's often discounted the most is emotion because we live in a patriarchy. We were raised in a patriarchy. And intelligence is always held in higher esteem. Well, think it through, right? I have to do this fight all the time with my students when I'm advising them. I'm constantly having to pull them into, what do you love? What does your heart say? What makes you excited to get up in the morning? Right? They don't even know. Divine feminine energy recognizes the intelligence in our emotional experience and brings that into play with everything we're doing. If you're leaning one way or the other, none of these are step all the way over here and forget the other. It's about recognizing in your own life what energy you might be leaning a little bit too much in one direction, right? Divine feminine energy is nurturing. Of course, we think of moms, and that's why I specifically went looking for a picture of a dad, right? One of the things that I have noticed ever since I saw a friend's son having babies, 15, 20 years ago, the generation of young men that I have seen having children today are really good fathers. They're nurturing, they're loving, they take care of their kids. They're not this macho, I don't change diapers stuff. Well, maybe they are sometimes, but it's a diaper. Who wants to change that? But they're nurturing, they're loving, they're caring, they love their kids. They look for they're the generation that stopped saying, I remember years ago when you'd hear a man say, well, I can't go anywhere, I got to babysit my kids, right? Every woman would you're like her toes would curl when she'd hear that. You don't babysit your own kids, you parent your own kids, right? Preach, right? And so men have this ability to be incredibly nurturing. My father was very nurturing in that kind of way. The divine feminine allows us to know a nurturing God. If we take that nurturing energy out of God, what are we left with? I want a loving God, a gentle God, Jai Mata Di, right? The God that will hold me in her arms. The God that will rock me to sleep and feed me and teach me and care for me and gently, right? In a recent faculty meeting, we were talking about, once again, what needs to happen, all the things that need to happen that aren't, because those tend to be very, very, very grumpy meetings. And I just decided, because I'm tenured and I could say whatever the hell I want, I just decided to stand up and say, as long as we continue to stand here and go, the administration, we're never going to get anywhere until we create a culture of care and we own our part in how we've not done that. We're not going to go, we're going to be here grumbling 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because we got to shift the culture. And the only way you shift the culture is by first looking in the mirror and saying, what is my part? How can I show up and build a culture of care? What I was really saying, although I didn't say this, is we need more divine feminine at Volunteer State Community College, right? But that's exactly what we need. We need to lean into that culture of care. The seventh one is spiritual connection. Spiritual guidance, spiritual teaching, that's divine masculine. Spiritual connection, the crown chakra, the energy of fully integrating the divine into our manifested reality. That's divine feminine, and that's what we missed. The divine masculine says, here are the rules, follow them, be faithful. I grew up in a church like that. I knew the manual of the Church of the Nazarene almost as well as I knew the New Testament. And I knew what it told us we could not do. As a child, it told us we could not drink, we could not smoke, we could not dance, we could not go to movies, we could not play with playing cards. Yes, those were evil. Those were evil. My grandfather, when I was a kid, the very first thing he would do when we would get a new toy, a new game at Christmas, he would open it up ahead of us, take the dice out, because the soldiers threw dice for Jesus' robes, and we don't gamble that way. And he would take the plastic lid of a Maxwell House coffee can, and he'd go down to the local little hardware store and get a little metal arrow, and he'd poke a hole, and he'd affix that arrow, and he'd draw it into pie charts, and he'd randomly put numbers, and we had spinners. And how that is not equally a game of chance, I do not know. But we didn't play with dice, by golly. Because I was raised in a tradition, a religious tradition that was patriarchal, it was rules-oriented. You follow the rules, you do what is right. And that's fine. Sometimes we need it. Sometimes we need, many times, a ritual or an outside rule or a previously established parameter has kept me on the road when I didn't feel integrated into anything. It has its place. We don't just want to throw it all out. I'm much more an advocate for you making your own, right? And if you make your own and I make my own and we share them with each other, I will just encourage you to do what you know in your heart your principles are guiding you to do without judgment, right? Sometimes we need it, but the divine feminine is complete surrender. I don't want to follow the rules of a religion. I want a relationship with the divine. I want to surrender into sacred energy, the letting go, the yin that receives the divine, rather than the yang that pushes it away or that says, I have a better idea. I want the energy that is receptive. Mary Magdalene represented this for us in the Christ tradition, and she was essentially whitewashed into a background figure of little importance. And it's time she's resurrected. I love artificial intelligence. I'm the only English professor in America you will hear say that, because it is the bane of our existence right now. But I can go to artificial intelligence and ask it to give me any picture I want, And I wanted Jesus and Mary Magdalene with a yin-yang symbol, and this is what it gave me. And I love that so much, it might end up being a tapestry on that wall, about 12 by 12. Jesus and Mary Magdalene, who were connected. This is the woman who probably knew Jesus best of all. And I think we need to know her a little better. Come back next week, we're going to talk about their relationship. Knowing in the biblical sense. Thank you.
Well, I don't even know what to say after that. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm so grateful for all of you guys. Grateful to have a place where we can think about things like this, right? I'm not sure how many other places today we're talking about Mary Magdalene. Probably not many. And so anytime we can discover or rediscover a character that we thought we knew and we find out we really didn't is always welcome. I'm noticing her notepad right there. Yeah, we're not going to show that. Anyway, okay, so what are we grateful for today? I'm going to say that I am grateful for this community because this community is 100% volunteer-led, and look what we have built. You know, we walk out, we come onto the property once or twice a week to do various things, to come to service, and then we walk in and everything is always sparkling, and the grass is mowed, and it doesn't just appear that way. We have not told the grass to grow to a certain length and stop. I promise. That grass is mowed by somebody, and it's all volunteer-led. So this community is all you. So pat yourselves on the back, and I'm grateful for you today. What else are we grateful for?
Disco balls.
Disco balls? Okay, all right, I got to hear. Why are we happy?
I love disco balls. Disco ball-ish.
Okay, all right. Grateful for disco balls. What else?
Hockey playoffs.
Hockey playoffs. That's exciting. Woohoo! I didn't know you were a hockey fan. What else?
I'm grateful for a little boy who is adventurous and brave, even when he thinks he's going to throw up before an audition.
Okay. Happy for brave kids. How many of you guys have brave kids? Well, of course you do. You're Unity people. A little too brave? Well, you know, that's okay. When you're that young, bones heal fast. What else?
I'm grateful for my daughter going through her first breakup and then done.
Oh, right. Yeah, getting through breakups. Wow. Yeah, that's a learning experience, isn't it?
Healing.
Oh, sorry. Pamela Online says she's grateful for this community. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Pamela Online said she's grateful for this community. We're grateful for you, Pamela. What else? Anybody?
Daughter and my son-in-law who are willing to allow their 8-year-old daughter to come with me.
Well, that's bravery right there, huh? Grateful for kids. We'll just say grateful for your kids. Yeah. Anybody, anything else? All right, well, on that note, let's sing about the gratitude that we have in our hearts. For a new chance to forgive, grateful to receive life's many blessings, and I'm grateful for the love I have to give. I am grateful for another day of living. I am Speaking of giving, I'm going to remind everybody that the blue vase is there in the back for you to give of your paper goods. We have the QR code for PayPal donations. You can take a picture of that. There's also a picture of that in the back if you want to do PayPal. Be sure to give of your time and your talents also. Those are so needed for us because your education and expertise is something that no one else in the spiritual community has but you. So when you offer it to us, we learn from you, and that's what being part of a community is all about, is learning from each other. So thank you so much for doing that. And let's say our offertory affirmation together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I choose to give and all that I'm open to receive. And so it is. Thank you so much for giving. All right, I want to remind everybody to check the What's Happening newsletter that comes into your mailbox on Tuesdays. If you want to sign up for that, you can go to the website. It's on the very front page there. Just put in your email address and you'll start getting that on Tuesdays. I noticed we had a couple of people do that for last week, so thank you for doing that, and show up at all of our events because you're guaranteed to have a good time. All right, let's all stand up and say the prayer for protection together as we prepare to go into this next week. Let's all say it together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the neighborhood, so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.